Before the actual class, I would like to make an announcement. First of all, is that in fact the Surangama Sutra will conclude for this year by next Monday and Tuesday. The classes, in fact, won't continue for this year, but we'll resume the classes next February or March. If death doesn't dawn on us, because life is impermanent. I'm saying that my life is impermanent, same as yours. Of course, for people who hold on to your life dearly, then you probably feel that is not possible. But for people who practice upon impermanence, you would feel that, well, it's normal to contemplate upon impermanence. So next Monday and Tuesday, we'll have last 2 classes for this year on the Surangama Sutra. And we'll have winter holiday, and then we'll resume the class next February or March, because I know there are people who don't listen to other classes, but only Surangama Sutra. Therefore, I would like to make such an announcement to you. Another thing is about our constructions over here. There are the volunteers or our staff member who work on the project of constructions. In fact, this year, because it's getting colder, so our constructions would conclude for this year as well very soon. And for people who work in other posts and positions, I know that you still will have to continue with your your volunteering works. And over here, I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to those of you who work as a volunteer to serve the Sangha and serve for other communities. In fact, I know it is very difficult to serve others. It is very difficult to consistently to serve others. So I'd like to extend my gratitude to all of you. Let it be that you work, you have a big position or small position, or do only very little things. I myself, I've been working or extending my scope of work in many different areas, such as charity work, such as schools, and many different areas. I know there are volunteers and the staff members who, in fact, really spend lots of time and energy in their work. Sometimes it may seem that there are people who work in different positions, such as work as a teacher or work in monasteries. Maybe your work is not necessarily having to do with your practice, and maybe the volunteering time did influence and did impact or shorten your personal practice. And I've already tried to give you lots of opportunities to listen to the Dharma, and I've tried my best to also offer you lots of the benefits, so to speak, to have the opportunities to listen to certain Dharmas. And this is my way of expressing my gratitude to you, because I know lots of volunteers, in fact, they have taken up lots of responsibilities, sometimes beyond our imaginations. I know obstacles and hardships are encountered on the way by them, but I think they've endured those hardships. On one hand, we should take the obstacles and hardships as something that's very normal. not just the works to serve others. In fact, everything in this world is very difficult. It will encounter some hardships halfway through. Everything's like that. And I think it's rather quite normal. And I think this is something that we should then work through, and this is something that we should try our best to persevere all the way through. And do not get too entangled into those obstacles. So that's something I would like to address today. The second thing, which is to express my gratitude to those of you. I know there are people who've given up lots of their personal life and their private time to serve the Sangha, to serve the sentient beings, and to that I really am very thankful to those of you, especially. I noticed that there are people who, in fact, work in small positions, or rather not known by people, but they continuously to work in such group. And I think it is, and I think without such kind of spirit of serving others and helping others, it would be difficult for others to receive such kind of help. So this is something that I would like to address before the end of 2019. This is the message of gratitude and thankfulness to the people who serve the others, who serve the Sangha, who serve selflessly. So I myself, I'm very thankful. Maybe I never had the opportunity to personally express my gratification to you, but at least I really hope that you would hear this message that I am expressing today. I myself pray to those of you who serve others and hope everything goes well and everything it would be auspicious to you. And then the third one is there's a Vajrayana dictionary that is then underway of editorial. I've had this plan, but it's been prolonged. Last year, we initiated this list that we asked the people to. We asked the people to sign up, whomsoever want to work on this dictionary. And mostly I would ask for people who want to work on this dictionary inside Laronggar. I don't really need lots of people from the English version. At first, I really need the Tibetan and Chinese volunteers. First of all, I need your names, and I need to figure out who is going to provide such kind of service at the beginning and who's going to do it later. So we need some kind of plans. I am asking for the kind of people who are good at both Tibetan language and English language. Because if you don't even know the alphabets of Tibetan, then how can you volunteering in such a position? So you need to know both languages. And the second one is that you need to be proficient in Buddhism knowledge as well. And the third one is that you need to invest at least 3 years in making this dictionary. I've translated lots of Vajrayana as well as Sutrayana teachings, but I found that there is no particular dictionary that is dedicated to Vajrayana teachings. Therefore, I want to slowly make this dictionary. I know that making a dictionary would take a long time, just as Tsotrung Lodro once said. Khenpo Tsotrung Lodro said that it's quite important to make a worldly dictionary of the three languages, the Chinese language, the Tibetan language, and the English language, and he's been working on that project for over 10 years. So I know that it's going to take a long time. I personally feel that it's quite important to make a dictionary for the Vajrayana Buddhism, and including all the three languages as well. I think it would be very helpful for people who are studying the Vajrayana teaching as well as translation and such kind of works. And the volunteers or staff members I'm looking for could be female, male, monks or nuns, and it's completely fine. The second requirement is that you need to be physically and mentally healthy, and you need to have the characteristic or personality of perseverance. And I can then provide you a work lunch. And then the next one is enjoying studying and have a curiosity for knowledge and have the professional attitude towards knowledge. This is not a class to teach you Tibetan language, but this is a class to inquire you to have the open-mindedness and curiosity to gain more knowledge. And for people who have the experience of working in the editorial aspect of dictionary would be in fact preferred. So for those of you who want to apply, then you can submit your info after class, and you can go to the Compos and Commos to write down your name, and later on we can have the selections later. You don't have to put your photographs there yet, maybe for later, but later on you can fill out this form after class. In fact, I know there are people who've already made the application last year, but the name list and the applications were lost by the management team, so we have to do this again. When you're writing essays at the end of the year, and when you're writing your personal experience of studying Dharma, I really hope that for those of you who have the ability to write your own stories, to write your experience, to write your any kind of stories that you have, sometimes it would be also quite meaningful. So now let's actually get into the actual class. Yesterday, I felt that my teaching was not really great. I felt that it was not enough, but people told me that the words that I taught yesterday was about 14,000 words, which were quite a bit. Recently, I'm not keeping up with good health, and Compos and Camels last night when they were reporting to me after class, I didn't feel that I could hear it, so I feel kind of tired. And today, I'm not sure what kind of teaching I'm going to give today, and it really all depends. Let's just be very spontaneous. The Surangama Sutra, yesterday we've already finished the 6 attempts of searching for the mind, and today we will then get to the 7th one. Yesterday, during last night's class, when we talk about the reference points or the mark, I think in that teaching, maybe I wasn't really. I felt I was clear, but maybe it wasn't too clear. But in terms of reference point, the mark, it has two ways of explaining what it was or what it means in the sutra. According to the Tibetan Tripitaka, what it means is that if the mind is in the middle, then do you have a mark that marks the middle? If there is no mark on the outside to show that it's a middle, then it is just like the space. Then you cannot say that it's the middle. Or if it has the middle, if it is then set on the middle, just as if my mind is here where the cup is, when I look at it from the east, then it is between. It is in the middle of west and east. And if this reference point were to be closer to me, then this mark is no longer exactly in the middle anymore. Or if you were to move it to the other side, then this mark is no longer in the middle as well. So this mark, this so-called reference point could be mind, refers to the mind. Everyone has a mind. And then if you were to say that the mind is in the middle of west and east, if I were to move it a little bit closer to the east, then it is no longer in the middle. If I were to move it towards a little bit to the left or to the right, then it is no longer in the middle either. Then in such a way, you cannot say it is in the middle. Or if you were to say that if the person is here and then the mind is over there, then it is in the middle of west and east, but if the person steps a few steps over, then it is no longer in the middle. So there are a few ways of explaining it. Yesterday, I listened to the after-class presentations. How I felt was that they didn't really understand the content of the class, and they were just guessing. If you don't really understand, then it is the best to be very humble and listen to others' explanation rather than pretending to be very confident and then deliver a presentation. It is the best to listen to it again and again so that you will gain clarity on the content. Sometimes, when we listen to rather very difficult content, we should read it over again and again. What I did with the difficult content, such as the wisdom chapter of the way of Bodhisattva, I read it over and over so that later on I finally understood it. Similarly to the Buddhist logic, at the beginning I didn't understand it, and then I read lots of reference books, and then I also contemplated about myself so that later on I finally gained understanding of it. There are practitioners who said that Khenpo only read this particular one reference book, so all you need to do is read this book. In fact, that's not true. I read lots of reference books, and I call upon you to read many reference books as well, so that you will get more understanding from different perspectives, and you will also be able to get more knowledge upon it. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to truly understand what the content means. So, I really feel that this time I am explaining it quite extensively compared to the previous commentaries and previous explanations. Therefore, for those of you who don't understand the teaching, it is the best to then go back to the transcripts, to go back to different reference books so that you'll be able to understand. I heard that lots of people didn't understand the teaching at all. They felt that they were on airplanes and they were dozing off, and they felt drowsy because of the teaching. And based on your expression, then you can definitely tell that you haven't gained enlightenment yet. Do not treat difficult knowledge as an old dog who doesn't want to chew the hard bones anymore. You should then continuously to chew over the information again and again so that you'll be able to understand. There are people who usually feel really quite arrogant about their knowledge and their understanding. Then it is best that you can go to those people and then ask them to explain it to you. I think in this way, it is quite beneficial to both of you. Yesterday, I've already finished the 6 attempts of searching for the mind. In fact, I wanted to finish the 7th, but we ran out of time yesterday, so let's finish it today. Ananda at that time said to the Buddha, said that world-honored one, when I have seen the Buddha turn the Dharma wheel in the past with the great Mahayana, Shubhiti, and Purna, and Shariputra, the 4 great disciples of yours, I heard that you were giving them teachings. And then you often say that the nature of the mind which perceives, makes discriminations, and is aware, it is in fact located neither within nor outside, nor in the middle. So he said that it is not in the outside, not inside, not outside, nor in the middle. Remember yesterday we already studied how the mind is not between the I nor the object. It has 2 types of it has then 2 types of outcomes. It is neither then the I nor the object. And how could the mind be in the middle of it? Because the mind cannot then mix with the I nor the object. So that's the first aspect. If I were to add right now, then maybe you will feel quite confused. I'm not sure if I made this clear yesterday. Yesterday, when I was giving the teaching, I felt that my mind was floating halfway through in the air and floating in the space. And so I'm not sure if it was clear. Yesterday, we talked that if the mind is between the I and the object, how could the mind mix with it? Does the mind mix with the I or the object? If it does, then everything is mixed together and it is a chaos. If it doesn't, then it doesn't make any connections with the I or the object, then it doesn't make any sense at all. So that's the 2 arguments that we studied yesterday. And now Ananda started to saying that, well, since I've heard that this is the way you've taught your 4 great disciples, that it is neither within nor outside nor in the middle. It is not located anywhere at all. That very non-attachment to anything is what is called the mind. So this very non-attachment, my mind. Therefore, I feel that the non-attachment is my mind. Is that true? Ananda started to ask the Buddha, saying that this non-attachment is my mind.
当然这个下面就是分析的还是很清楚。然后佛陀呢
later on the explanation,
如言觉知这个
then
分别
later
心
on
性呢
the Buddha started to explain to him, saying that you say that the nature of the mind, which perceives, makes discriminations, and is aware, is not located anywhere at all.
具无在，就是在哪里都是没有他的这个自信，你不是这样讲的吗？那这样讲的话呢，就下面就是进行分析啊，就时间的这个虚空，在时间的这个
The entirety things existing in the world consists of space, the water, the land, the creatures that could fly and walk,
还有空中也好。那么这些所有的这
and
个
all these
就诸所
external
无相，就
objects.
诸所无相的话呢，那么就是所有的这个七情世界，或者
All
说
of
是所有的
these
这个动和静的这个
animate
玩
and
物啊，
inanimate
这
objects
这个诸
that
所
is in
无
this
相的话
world.
呢，就是包括刚才这个水陆飞象等等，就是这些是气世界。然后刚才那个
such
虚空
as
啊，还有这个
the
山河大地啊，
water,
以及这
land,
个就
those
山河
are
海牛
the
等等，这
inanimate
些呢
world,
就
and
可以
then
叫做
all
是
of
气世界
the
气世界。那么气世界和有情世界所说的
all of
所
these
有的一切的
creatures that
一切
could
呢
fly and walk,
这些
all
呢
of
就是
those
名为
sentient
一切是
beings,
吧？就是这个
all
不
of
是刚才
those
前面说的
animates.
是一切宇宙嘛？一切宇宙的话呢，那
So
所谓
the
的一切的
entirety
话
of
呢，就
things,
是从
all
这
of
个
them,
虚空的乃至这个七情世界的，
all the
我
way
们
from
现有的就
space
是一切的
to
这个法呢，就是都叫做是一切，是吧？
to
那这样
this
的话呢，就
world,
是入不住
from
这呢，
sensation to the
就为
inanimate.
在还是为无？就是那如果我们一切的概念是应该这样的
Everything, the
那一切的概
entirety
念
of
这样的话呢
things.
你刚才说是
Isn't
这
that
个
what you
心是
meant?
无助者。那心是无助者的话，那就是
Since you've
这个无
already
助呢
said
就是
that mind
这
is
个为存在
non-attachment,
是存在的一个法呢，还是
then
无存在的
does
就是
this
不存在的一个法
non-attachment also
应该有
exist?
两种可能，就是要么是
It
在
either
整个七情世界
exists
当中是存在
or
的一
it
个法
doesn't
要么是
exist.
七情
Just
世界
like
当中不存
previously,
在的这个法，就是
we've
有
listed
这个
all
情
the
况。
animate and
那么首先是
inanimate.
第一个就是
So
不
does
存
mind
在的法
exist or
就是
not?
无自呢，就是这
And then
同
Buddha
意就是归
continued
妄
to say
啊
that
归妄
if
不
it
了
does not
那么
exist,
如果你
if the
说
mind
是
doesn't
在这个
exist,
七情世
if
界当中
this
是心是不
non-attachment
存
does
在的
not
一个法
exist,
哇，那心是不存在的法的话呢，我们不存在的还
In
有
such
很多
way,
东西呢，就是这个乌龟的
then
毛啊
lots of
脚
things
啊，还
doesn't
有这个
exist, such
什么
as
这个
hairs
生
on a
育的儿子
tortoise
啊，
or
生育的
horns
女
on a
儿，
rabbit
生育的
or a
生育的儿
son
子
or
经常说生育的女儿
or
好像
daughter
是
of
女
a
儿也可
barren
以说，
woman.
还有这个
I think, in fact,
啊
we
等
often
等，
use
就
the
是这些
example
呢，就
of
是
the
应该
son
可
of
以
a
啊，
barren
就是
woman,
比如说我们这
but
个这
we
个
can
龟
also
毛呢，就
say
是做
the
的这个
daughter
毛
of a
衣，就
barren
是衣
woman,
服
isn't
很
it?
好啊，就是这
Or
种
you
说
can
法也
say
没
that
有。
I
然后这
really
个
love
头教呢，
my
就今天我在路
sweater
上的
that
时
is
候，
made
就
of
头
the
教
hairs
知道我的肚子上特别
on
痛
a
啊，就
tortoise.
这样的这种说法也没有吧？就是所以说，
Nobody
本来
would
他们都不
speak
成
of
立的话，
such a
那
thing
怎么会是存在
because they don't
所以你刚
exist.
才前面讲的，如果是无有的话呢，
So
那
as
就
you
不
said
存在
before,
这
if
些
it is
因此呢，就是
non-attachment
因何不住
and
的？
this
怎么会是
non-attachment
不住
doesn't
的？
exist,
说是
then
无
it
住
is
的，无
not
住的话
possible.
什么都没有的话呢，住和不住的概念都不可能存在的。所以
If
呢，
it doesn't
这
exist,
这
if
一
it is
点呢，你
non-attachment,
说了也
there's
是没
not
有意义的，
even
可以
the
说是自诩
concept
无有啊，
of
就是
attachment
就
or
是什么这个无
non-attachment.
从叹气，就完全是你这样说
It
也
is
是胡闹
completely
一样
wrong.
就是没有什
It
么意
is
思，
completely
这是第一
absurd.
个。然后第
So
二
that's the
个
first
有则
one,
不住者
that
啊，就如果你说
there's
是
no
有是
meaning
有，但是它
if
是
the
不住
mind
者的
doesn't
话呢，
exist.
就是不
The
可
second
名
one,
物
if
的，
a
那就不
non-attachment
可能是没有的，
existed,
就是应该是有的，
if it
是吧？
exists,
因为它
if
是无住者是有的啊，就无住者是存在的。那这样的话呢，就
if
是
this
不可名物的，
non-attachment
不能说是它没
existed,
有的，对吧？不能说没有的话呢，
it could
无
not
相
be
则
said to be
无啊，就是非
non-existent.
无则相，就是
To
它
be
这个无
non-existent
相。
is
那
to
这
be
样的话
without
呢，它
attribute.
就是如果是没有相的话呢，这说明是没有，就
To
是
be
就
without
没有就是
any
没
kind
有
of characteristics.
就
To be
按照咱们的
existent
解释
is
的
to
话比
have
较好懂一点，就是
attributes.
无则就是
Whatever
无相就是
has
没有的，就
attributes
是
has a
如果
location.
你说是这个无着的话呢，就是它有没有
If
相？
you were to
如果
say
没有
that
相的话呢，就
this
是它这个它的
non-attachment
体也没有的。体
doesn't
也没有
have
如果
attributes,
没有这
then
个
it
体的
doesn't
话呢，
have
就是那在
any
相也没
property
有
to
的。那
exist.
这样的话呢，就是
If you were to say that it
相
has
有
attributes,
则存，就是云
then
和无着，就是如果是真的
it
是
must
它
have a
有这个
location.
相的话呢，就是这已经存在，就是怎么会是无着
Because it
呢？
exists.
就是
Then how can you say
如
that
果你
it
真的
is
说它就是
non-attachment,
没有
it
的
is
本来是没有嘛
unattached?
有的就是有的嘛。
If
它
you
有
were
体
to
相
say that it
如果
exists,
你推出
then
来的话
it
呢
has
非无
attributes.
非无
If
的
it
话呢
doesn't
已经有
have
就是有体相了。有体相的话呢，就
If it doesn't exist, then it doesn't have attributes. If you were to say that it has attributes, then it exists. And if it exists, it must be attached to something. It must be touching something. Then how could you say that it is unattached? Let's look at our cups, at our thermos, and our pillars. In fact, all of these things that exist, they have attributes and they are attached to certain things. Over here, we're talking about mind. What is the attribute or characteristic of mind? Over here, Ananda didn't express it in the way that the mind is empty but luminous and it is illusory and dreamlike. Ananda didn't recognize that. But Ananda is presenting it from the mundane being's perspective, from people without any knowledge or understanding of the mind. So he's presenting it from a way that they're still thinking that mind is some existent substance. And if you were to search for the mind in such a way and look at this and follow this logic and go through this 7 attempts of searching for the mind, then you'll be able to understand what the mind is. If you do not have any of the pith instructions or understanding of the mind, then by reading this, you probably would get even farther away from it. I really feel that the 7 attempts of searching for the mind, I feel is really good, but the outcome is that you cannot find where the mind is. So I think it's still a little bit difficult for people to recognize the nature of mind through the 7 attempts of searching for the mind. It is still not a pith instruction of Vajrayana of finding the mind. This pointing out instructions, the 7 attempts of searching for the mind is so different than the ones of the Vajrayana's pith instructions. So for people who had such studies and profound studies into different treatises and Vajrayana teachings, you probably have already understood what I meant. Over here, then the Buddha pointed out that this so-called non-attachment mind has nowhere to be found. So we've already finished the 7 attempts of finding the mind in the Surangama Sutra. Lots of great masters that they consider that these 7 searches for the mind are in fact quite profound. And some masters would consider that these 7 points are very similar to the analysis from the Madhyamika. The 4 ways of arguing that the 4 kinds of birth are not valid in Madhyamika, such as Master Ji Yuan from the Song Dynasty. He said that this is very similar to the ones of the Madhyamika teaching, such as the first one and the third one, that it talks about how mind is not inside nor in the root or in the faculty. In fact, it is then a way to refute that mind is not born from within, and the second one is not outside. Then it is refutation on that mind is not born from outside, and then the 4th one and the 5th one talks about it is not born together, and the 5th one. 5th one and the 7th one, where it talks about mind is where Ananda thinks that mind is non-attachment. Then over there, it is a refutation from the analysis of Madhyamika, where it talks about that mind is not where there is no birth of out of no cause. That's the teaching given in Madhyamika, where it says that all dharmas is not self-born, it is not others-born, it is not born out of no cause, and it is not born out of the conjoined causes. So these are the ways of analyzing the 7 attempts of searching for the minds. It's very similar. That's another way of looking at it. I think that's something that you can make reference to as well. Sometimes it may not be exactly the same, but at least I think we can look into it and have a certain understanding of it. Previously, we've already finished the 7 attempts of finding the mind. And the next one, so let's continue. Then Ananda arose from his seat in the midst of the great assembly, the bodhisattvas and the arhats and so on. I think previously Ananda must have been sitting. So he arose from his sitting. And over there, Ananda previously we've already heard the questions that was asked by Ananda, and we should be very grateful to Ananda because through his questions we heard the teachings from the Buddha. So over there, Ananda then arose from the seat in the midst of the great assembly and uncovered his right shoulder. In here, in fact, it points out that the custom at that time in India, it is a way of showing respect, a way to respect the kings when you were to see the kings, or a way to show respect to your guru or your teacher. And he placed his right knee on the ground. It is rather after he knelt upon his right knee, he then reverently jointed his palms together and then said to the Buddha, he said that I am the Tathagata's youngest cousin. On one hand, Ananda is the youngest cousin of the Buddha. On the other, he is the attendant of the Buddha. In fact, he is the son of Shuklodana, who was the younger brother of Shuddhodana, and Shuddhodana was the father of Shakyamuni Buddha. Shuddhodana has 4 brothers, and each one of them had 2 sons. So together they had 8 sons together. So together they had 8 sons, so 8 cousins. And among all the relatives of Shakyamuni Buddha, the younger brother of Shakyamuni's father, King Shuddhodana, was Amritodana, and he was the father of Devadatta. And Amritodana was also the father of Ananda. So Ananda and Devadatta were cousins as well. And when Ananda got ordained, in fact, he was the youngest, and he started to serve and attend the Buddha. He was the youngest attendant, and he became an attendant of, he was the youngest disciple at that time, also the attendant of the Buddha. And then he said that I have received the Buddha's compassionate love and affection and have left a home life, got ordained, but I have been dependent on the Buddha's affection. Sometimes we say that because of other people's affection, at that time, as a consequence, have pursued erudition.
因为我是那个就是很
But
光文不
I
屑
am
的，
not
确实
yet
这个非常渊博的。你看，我们也看出来了，就是
I have
按照
not
每次
yet
听我们
attained
这个
the
是确实是
fruition
非常
of
有渊博的
outflows
这样
or
的。但是呢，因为
fruition
没有
of
很
without
好地去
outflows.
修行啊，就是没有很好的去修行呢，没有得到
Although
圣果啊，就是没有得到真
Ananda
正的
have
这个阿罗汉
heard
的
lots
果
of
位啊，
teachings
有
from
些
the Buddha
好像
because he
那
was
个
really close to the
鄂音
Buddha,
大师啊，
but
就是
he
他
did
的
not
这个
practice very
就
diligently,
是
so
那个文
he
集
had
中录
not
的话呢，
attained
确实
arhathood
是
at that
阿
time.
难在这个时候呢，就是还
And
是这个
according to
反复的，
according
到
to
了第
Master
三卷
Oi's
末的时候呢，就是
commentary, he said that at the
第
beginning
四卷
of
的
this
时候呢，
Surangama Sutra,
获得了
Ananda
十
had
多
not
法国，就是第二
attained
部位。然后
the
后来呢，就是
had not
圆寂智
attained
合啊，就是圆寂智合
any
的话呢，
fruition
当
yet,
时
so
那
he
个
was still
不
a
是这个
mundane
迦叶
being.
尊者也
And
是
then
学
at the
赫
end
兹
of the
的
third
阶级的
chapter,
资格
Ananda
他突
attained
然
the
参加
first
这个，
level
然
of
后阿难
fruition
就是
of
特别的这种
of
痛苦，
the
然后
Shravaka.
后
And
来的
then
话呢，就
the
是他
fourth
就心
chapter,
无
he
力的
attained
就
the
是修行
second
这个是个
level
就是
of
因为一个
fruition.
强
And
烈
then
的这种
later on,
信啊，
after
就是强烈
the
的信心，后来就
parinirvana
获得
of
阿
the
罗汉
Buddha,
后来就
by the
这个
pressure
迦叶
given
尊者呢，
by
就是他这个
Mahakashapa,
第
Ananda
二个
then
这个教
attained
教
the
给的这
full
个人物来自教
full
给了
enlightenment
阿
of
难尊者
arhathood.
是这样的。
And then
甚至是你
Mahakashapa
试试看
passed
呢，
down
佛
the
陀在世
teachings
的时候呢，就是一直
and
是
asked
阿难
Ananda
呢，
to
就是
protect
是
all
没
the
有这个
teachings
成
of
成
the
就
Buddha.
就是没有成就。
So at
因此
that
有时
time,
候我们
during
可
the
以
beginning of
可
the
以看出
Surangama
来，
Sutra,
就
in
可以
fact,
看出
Ananda
什
had
么呢？
not attained
就
any
是在这个世界上
enlightenment
是
or
一个
any
三知识的
realization
话呢，应
yet.
该是
So
最了
from
不起
this
的
we
就是
can
释迦牟尼
see
佛。但是释
a
迦牟尼
great
佛的这个
spiritual
僧
teacher
辩的
such
话呢，
as
就
Shakyamuni
不
Buddha.
管是他的这个
There
亲
are
戚这个提婆达多也好，
the
然后他自己的这
different
个
kind
侍
of
者也是堂
levels of
弟，
beings
这个
around
阿
him,
难尊者
even
的话呢，
the
就
ones
是
who are
当
very
时
close
佛
to
陀
him
在世
are
的时候
as
呢，就一直
his
是就是
relatives,
没有
such as
没有那
Shuddhadana,
个就是
such as
成为一个
Devadatta,
是阿罗汉的
and
果位，就是阿罗汉的果位。所以说呢，
Ananda
我
as
们有时候
his
是现在在这
attendant
个
at
社
the
会
same
当中的
time.
话呢，
His
就经常
cousin did not attend
经常
arhathood
有
at
就
that
是这
time,
么样的这个
even
说法呢
after
啊，就是
being
某
with
某
the
某
Buddha
是
for a
这
long
个
period
某
of
个
time.
上市的这个
Just
传
as
承弟
that,
子，应该是
nowadays
很了
lots
不
of
起
people
的。
would
或者说是某个
promote
人呢，就
themselves
是某
because
个
they
上
are
市的什么
certain
亲戚，哎，就是
relatives,
他的什么这
certain
个这
attendants
个
of the
什
teacher,
么就
of
是
the
弟弟
Lama,
啊，就是什么这个
younger brother,
子孙呐，什么什么
or
这些方面来说，
children, or
或者呢就是
grandchildren,
说
or
啊
so
某个
on,
人呢就是在某个
or
佛学院当中就是带过。
someone
现
who
在很多
stayed
确实我
in
们在
the
汉地的话，经常看到是
in
对
the
个
Buddhist
人呢就不
academy
去
for
这
a
个
period
观
of
察，
time,
就不去观察。然
and
后就
they
是说
would
是
then
这
promote
个人
themselves
是就
because
是什
of
么地
different
方
names.
来的，就什么地
I
方来
think
的话呢，
nowadays
那
lots
说
of
明是
people
他已经
only
有
look
这个传
at
承，有这个
the
价值，有这
Lama
个能力。
or
这样的话呢，可能有
only
些
look
时候
at
呢
the
就不一定很
monastics
正确。
from
我们也
their
不敢说是
from the
完全没有这
perspective
个
of
这个
their
这种关系，
status,
可能
from where they
上
come
次分
from,
辨的
or
一个
from
很了不起的话
what
呢，
kind
也
of
许是确
relations
实
they've
它
had
有这个传承和
with
这个
the
价值，就是它
masters.
有传承和价值。
On
但
one
也
hand,
许的话呢，就
yes,
是虽然
some
在
of
这
the
个上师
people
身
may
边
have
或者是上师
received
的
lots
一个
of
亲
the
戚，但是他的信呢，就是
may
从
have
来都是没有
received
立在这
lots
个
of
发上
the
面，就是天天的是散乱了，就是快闹
or
了。
transmissions
一直
and
这样的
blessings
话呢，
from the
那
teacher.
这种
But
人
on the
没有
other
传
hand,
承的话
there
呢，
are
确
people
实是
who
很难。
are
所以说
rather
我
quite
们这个
arrogant
一
and
直善知识的
did
时候
not
呢，
listen
最
to
好
the
就是
Dharma
佛陀是按
from
照
the
对
teacher.
个人
Rather,
去观
their
察。
only
比如说
focuses
你要
on
你要
their
依据
own
哪一个这个善知
well-being
识的
and
话呢，
not
就
the
我们
not
这
the
个要
dharmas.
这个人就是具不具
And
足
in
法
such
相，
a way,
这
it's
一
very
点
difficult
确
to
实
say whether
很重
that
要
person
啊。我经
has
常也是
the
举过这个例子吧，就我觉得是我举
has
得很好。
the
比如说我们要招
requirement
一
of
个幼儿
being
园的
a
老
good
师，我
teacher.
们招一个
In
小
fact,
学
I
小学
think
三
this
年
kind
级
of
的老师，
prerequisites
那我
are
们要
quite
这
important
个
to
招这个老师的时候呢，就
scrutinize
是我们
before
能不能就是某
you
个领导
listen
的
or
这个
before
亲
you
戚啊，
study under
除非
certain
是他就
people.
特别的
Just
打
as
电话
nowadays, there are people who want to be a teacher for want to be a kindergarten teacher, and even to apply for a kindergarten teacher, you need to have prerequisites, and
那这个时候呢，我们所说啊，就是这个是应该某个学校来的，某个什么来的话呢，那
and you would look at his credentials. You can't just simply look at whether that person come from certain places or studied with someone. You need to know the complete credentials of that person. So over here, Ananda said that I know that the Buddha has such great affection towards towards me and is so compassionate to me. And I've been following the Buddha for such a long period of time. And because of that, I've heard lots of teachings by the Buddha. But over here, Ananda said that he's not diligent, therefore he had not attained realization of any level yet. Just as it is stated in the classics of the Dharma garden with groves of gems, it says that the sublime Dharma taught by the Buddha, I shall practice accordingly. To practice the Dharma diligently, one is assured to achieve liberation. So, unless for very rare cases that the Lama could help you, even if you do not have any even if you do not practice diligently, but majority of the time, in fact, if you do not practice accordingly to the Dharma, then you do not, you cannot be assured to achieve liberation. Ananda, in fact, listened to lots of the teachings and were able to ask lots of questions to the Buddha. But it is so pitiful that he didn't practice accordingly. It is so pitiful that he had not really attained liberation at that time yet. So if you were to only listen to the teachings without any practice, then you can call yourself a scholar but not a practitioner. And all the teachings that you study would not help to eradicate your own afflictions at all. So that's such pitiful. That is very pitiful. Therefore, it is quite important to find a teacher who are fully qualified and then practice accordingly. You should not just go to all the teachers, go to the famous and well-known teachers and just take photos. There are people who would come to Larungar and they would take photos in Larungar. They would take photos with certain lamas and tokus, and then they would take those photos and go outside and would say that they come from Larungar. There are many people come from Larungar who visit Larungar. There are tourists who come to Larungar and take photos over here. But how could you say that there are people who are qualified to teach the Dharma, who are qualified as being a teacher? Another aspect of it is that Ananda, in fact, constantly think of others when he was with the Buddha. Ananda is quite considerate to others when he attends the Buddha. There are attendants who then serves the there are the attendants who serves the teacher, but they don't really consider the well-being of others. In fact, this is quite important to. This is quite important to be an attendant around the teacher, because there are the ones who are very flattery, and there are people who are quite who would then gossip a lot, and in such a way the teacher would get influenced by this kind of people as well. Another thing to address during the Another thing to keep in mind is that while you're attending a teacher, while you're serving a teacher, then you should remember that the teacher is not yours. The teacher is for the sentient beings. You should not try to control the teacher. You should not then try to keep the teacher only for yourself. And in such a way, it really would create obstacles for the teacher. The teacher says something, or the teacher sees someone, or the teacher's arrangement of certain wealth or objects has to go through the attendants. And in such a way, I think it would be quite disturbing or quite destructive to the teacher's Dharma activity. I've met attendants. I've met attendants of different teachers before, and at the beginning they may appear to be great practitioners, and later on their desire towards their desire for the power started to increase, and then they want to get involved with all the aspects of the teacher, and then they want to stop the teacher's certain doing, and so on. So I think it is quite important to give the teacher certain freedom. And by keeping the teacher not free, it would create difficulties and negative karma for yourself as well. So over here, Ananda's service to the Buddha should be studied by the attendants of different teachers or close people of the teacher. Lots of people would say that, oh, the teacher is ill, the teacher is going to pass into parinirvana very soon, the teacher is very tired, and so on. They would constantly say things like that. Once I remember that Phuntsogren Rinpoche was taking rest in the resort of Chengdu, and someone came, wanted to see Phuntsogren Rinpoche, and I told that person saying that Phuntsogren Rinpoche is taking rest, so he can't see it right away. And Phuntsogren Rinpoche, after heard of the story, Phuntsogren Rinpoche said, you should have told me, and you shouldn't have asked the people away. But sometimes when I do let the people to see him, Phuntsogren Rinpoche would appear to be unhappy as well. And sometimes they would refuse what they would refuse what they said before. They'll change their mind. Sometimes they will say that they did, and sometimes they would say they didn't. Anyhow, the attitude of the people around the teacher is in fact quite important for people with rather really terrible attitude who are considered as close students or attendants as the teacher. Then it would create rather create negative impressions for the others. Or if you would appear to be very compassionate towards others and represent your teacher in such a way, then the ones who come to see the teacher, even if they're quite rude and very harsh, they would slowly increase their level of compassion. So sometimes I would reflect upon myself. I remember that I spent a long period of time with Phuntsogren Rinpoche, and during such kind of period of time, it was very difficult to then look at my own mistakes. But later on, I recognized that lots of things I've done were not really the 100%, but I've tried my best. I had to say that I've already tried my best, although I cannot really alternate the things that had gone before. So I really want to say that people who are around the teachers, in fact, it's quite important to be in harmony with one another. Sometimes 3 people, if they're working together on a project, they would be in competition. Their action, their speech would show such disharmony. In fact, this is rather quite inappropriate, because if you were to have such kind of capacity to staff or serve your teacher or to serve the Sangha, then you should try your best to work for to provide your service, rather than being in the mentality of competitiveness. So it's quite important to recognize that the teacher does not belong to you. The teacher teacher belongs to all sentient beings.
在当面不感激这样的，有些就是像上师比较就是像观音菩萨一样的，就是比较慈悲一点的。
There are lamas who are just like Avalokiteshvara.
弟子们的话呢，就是全部都是把
Their
牛
disciples
角放在口袋里一样的，就互相都知道嘛，牛角放在口袋里面是什么样的。
Their disciples are like, in fact, for me, I am very direct, and I would point out my disciples' downfalls. And for teachers who are really compassionate, just like Avalokiteshvara, they wouldn't say anything about it. And then in such a way, the disciples would just be like the horns that you would put in a pocket that is hidden, but it would create lots of harm within.
就是一个是阿难，就是这个学习的地方呢，就是一个是他对这个所有的这个弟子和
So one hand is that Ananda, in fact, he is quite learned. On the other is that Ananda really tried his best to serve the Buddha and the community.
这样的话呢，就是这也是有原因的。下面阿难尊者就是他说啊，就是我是虽然这样的，佛陀对我也是很好，但是没有过这个侮辱的过位。
Ananda said that.
正因为这样的话呢，就是不能致富啊。
The Buddha was really compassionate and caring to me, but I have not attained the level of without outflow. That is the fourth stage of fruition of arhatship. And then Ananda said that I could not overcome the Kapila mantra. I was spun around by it and sank in the house of prostitution. In the Tibetan version, it is translated as a house of prostitution or brothel, but in some other commentaries it says it's a house of entertainment. The Matangi woman was the mother, and the woman who, in fact, the woman or her daughter's name is Matangi woman's daughter, who then wanted to seduce Ananda. Recently, I've been trying to translate the Sutra of Matangi woman, and then within that sutra, it could very easily to see that Ananda was very much. Ananda was pursued a lot by the Matangi woman's daughter, and then the daughter continuously to follow Ananda, whether Ananda's begging for alms or went to study or wherever Ananda goes, the woman would follow him.
这样的话呢，就是后来就他也比较阿难也现象上是比较犯。
And then Ananda was really upset about it. A Matangi woman didn't start with the use of Kapila mantra because she felt that the Sangha, the assembly of the omniscient Buddha, cannot be under the mantra of Kapila. Under the control of Kapila mantra. And then the Kapila woman's daughter started to threaten her mother by committing suicide. And because of such threatening, the mother had to use this Kapila mantra to seduce Ananda. At the beginning, the mantra's strength was not that strong. But then the mother closed the doors and the windows and closed Ananda inside the room. And the daughter said that if you were to keep the windows and doors, I will turn Ananda into my husband by the evening. So you should keep all the doors and windows locked. And around the evening time, then the Buddha's blessings dawned and then saved Ananda. So my advice for the women, I think because of your desire, if it was not transformed onto the path of practice, then it could really create lots of harm. Therefore, it is quite important to make sure that you can use reasonable methods to resolve your relationship issues and your great longing and desire. Especially, do not threaten or commit suicide. This is quite important to remember. Recently, a famous celebrity, a Korean celebrity, committed suicide, and the media stated that her name was Soli, and she committed suicide. She was one of the well-known celebrity in Korea. She started her training to become a celebrity around the age of 11 or so, and then around the age of 15 she got really famous, and she committed suicide, and she died yesterday at the age of 25. Many media reported that she had severe depression. Many people committed suicide because of depression, and there are lots of women who commit suicide because of loss of relationship or not getting what they want. And I think the main thing is that they had not found the true mind that they have. It is quite important to remember. In fact, in this world, we are not really of lack of anything. We have everything in this world. We have, we can be content with what we have, but because of our grasping and desire, then we'll suffer because of that. When we were young. So I think young people, it is quite important to supplicate to the three jewels often and tame your own mind. This is quite important to practice the method of taming the mind. If you were to learn to practice or to practice the methods of taming your mind, it would be rather quite easy. Depression is quite terrifying nowadays, even within practitioners. From Buddhism's point of view, I think it has something to do with grasping. You probably would feel that you're under pressure, and you probably feel that you're useless, and you probably feel that you're not taken care of or taken seriously by others, and maybe you feel that you're of no value to others. Continuously, if you constantly think in such a way, if you have this kind of concepts again and again and think in such a way, you will only then add into the symptom of feeling useless. In fact, when we look at the modern symptoms of depression and harming oneself, such as cutting and so on, this kind of actions are very unreasonable and are not of logic at all, and would harm your own as well as your family. So when you have afflictions, when you are under depression, do not continue to fetter yourself in the mood of depression and in such kind of thinking pattern. It is quite important to get out of that thinking pattern. The karma of sentient beings are very different. The habitual patterns of everyone is very different. People tend to grasp onto the external phenomena and the external substance. On the other hand, we grasp on ourselves. And we don't really have a true value, our world value and our value for ourselves. So we don't really have any standard for such value. And if we don't have such kind of value, then it would only drag us into the quagmire of the afflictions that we've made for ourselves. And then it could lead us to very disappointing actions of our which harms ourselves. I know that Dharma practitioners also have afflictions, but I think since we've already studied the Dharma, then we have the methods of working with such kind of afflictions. And we can work with the afflictions from the Vajrayana's point of view, and we can look at the nature of our afflictions from the Vajrayana's point of view. So from this point of view, in fact, the methods or the tools to work with afflictions differs us as Dharma practitioners than those who are non-practitioners. So I really call upon those of you who have already gotten those methods of working with afflictions, and I really hope that you could spread this kind of methods to others who do not have such kind of tools. On one hand, I feel very proud that I feel really proud of giving the teaching of the Dharma, and I'm very certain and confident that this kind of methods have already helped lots of people. And I know that for many people, if they had never really studied the Dharma, then they're probably no longer living in this world anymore. And I think this kind of mentality is quite common in this world for non-practitioners. But look at those people who've studied the Dharma. At the beginning, maybe they did not feel that their life is valuable, and they did not feel that the life is meaningful. But after studying the methods and the teachings of the Dharma, they completely transformed themselves, and their mentality is not the same anymore.
这样的就是，然后呢，就是因为这个呢，就是不止这个真迹，所以啊，就是因为我为什么是被这个咒术啊，就孔子呢？
And then Ananda continued to say that the reason I was under the control of the mantra Kapila, it is all because I did not know the location of the realm of reality. I did not know the ultimate truth. So after going through this hardship, Ananda had this great longing to study the reality, to study the ultimate truth. I only hope that the world-honored one, out of great kindness and pity, will instruct us in the path of Shamatha guide, in the path of Shamatha, guide the Ichantikas and overthrow the Milichas. Over here, Shamatha shows it's the Shamatha meditation or Shamatha practice, and then the Ichantika or Shamatha means it's a meditation, and then Ichantika means those of people with insufficient faith. And overthrow the Milichas. The Milichas means wrong views. So he requested the Buddha to give the teaching to all the people in the assembly, as well as to the people who doesn't have sufficient faith and whose faith is deficient, and to the people who have complete wrong views or and evil knowledge and views. After he had finished speaking, then Ananda placed his 5 limbs on the ground and started to prostrate, along with the entire great assembly. They then stood on tiptoe and waiting attentively and thirstily and respectfully and really longing to hear the instructions, just as how a thirsty person would then have this great longing to receive water, they were then standing and tiptoed to receive the instructions from the Buddha, and they have this very sincere and really respectful veneration towards the Buddha, and then longing to receive the instruction from the Buddha. They all want to listen to the teaching given by the Buddha. In fact, it is quite important to know that our mind and our physical body at the time of listening to the Dharma is quite important. I noticed, in fact, the collective attitude of everyone listening to the Dharma is very good, even when I'm speaking for a long period of time. Maybe we should stop here today, otherwise it will get rather quite long. Okay, we'll stop here.
Sonam de donche zebanya tona ni be jana pashe ke kana shi ran lo zeba zebam zone